Hello and welcome to today's Tea House Chat. We are speaking with Dylan Martorell. Dylan, welcome to Signal and thank you for participating in Signal 37 with us. Can you, you have a very, very vast multidisciplinary arts practice, so I thought I'd maybe start things off by asking you to tell us, kind of talk us through all of the wonderful things you do.
Yep, sure. My practice, as you said, is quite broad. It covers everything from drawing, screen printing, photography, video, to more performative-based mediums like costume making, instrument making, making sound systems. So if you can look through the magazine, the catalogue that I've given you, that's the type of stuff that I've been working on for the last couple of years. So I've been travelling throughout Asia and making instruments and portable sound systems and performance spaces. And I've also started making interactive installations so that I've taken myself out of a performative context and I'm making stuff for other people to perform with. So I'm more of a facilitator. And I just got back from India, where I spent 5 weeks there at the Kochi Biennale, and I made 3 different interactive installations there. I did one with a percussive robotics module that I'll set up upstairs later. So it's like a 12-piece interactive robotics module. And I set that up at the Kochi Biennale, but I also toured around Fort Kochi and just made percussive instruments just out of rubbish. So if you look through there, I'm a huge fan of rubbish. I grew up in Scotland and my house backed onto the local rubbish dump. So I spent my childhood looking through rubbish and just being fascinated by rubbish. And I'm still looking at rubbish, working with rubbish. Very disappointed with the lack of rubbish at Signal today, I have to say. I heard you're responsible. Too clean. Kills creativity. You need germs. And another installation I did was using sub-bass frequencies and like a big car sound system. And in each of the speakers there was like a different spice. So when you went into the room, the sub-bass frequencies made clouds of mixed spice. Where I was working in India, in Fort Kochi, it's been like the centre of the spice trade for hundreds of years. So I really like to go to a place and just work with the materials of the place. It's a good way to work as an artist. You basically get on the plane with a suitcase of stuff and just use what you find, and then when you finish you just put it back, and you know, you don't have to pay for freight costs, and life is full of surprises, and India thankfully is full of rubbish. So that was wonderful. And the last installation I did was a multi-user instrument based on material that we're working with upstairs. So the drum robotics and the stuff upstairs, they both use Arduino interfaces. And the one upstairs is like a touch-based system. So when you touch anything that conducts electricity, it samples a trigger. Triggers a sample of sound. And the one that I did in India was, again, using rubbish collected from around the area, and it triggered sounds from around the area. So school children and goats and birds and different types of Indian instruments. So that's what I've been up to lately.
Can you maybe tell us about what your plans are for working with the Signal curators and what you hope to kind of, the outcomes that you guys are going to produce for the showcase that's coming up on Saturday?
Well, I'm helping Dell create the soundtrack to some animation. So we just did a recording session in the kitchen, crunching carrots and making inappropriate things very wet. So we're going to use those sounds to to make a soundtrack, and we're going to set up the robotic system as well, but that might be just for a bit of fun. I don't think that'll make it onto the soundtrack because it's quite loud and crazy, and I hear you have problems with some of the tenants. I don't think they want to listen to it, so bring it on. Okay.
Cool. Well, I have been doing a little bit of reading about your practice because it's so massive, and I was chucked into this at the last minute. And you seem to bring elements of ritual to what you're doing. Can you talk to us about sort of maybe how that might be incorporated in what you're doing here, or how that incorporates into what you were telling us about that you did in India?
Yeah, I tried to view as many rituals and performances in India as possible. India is a pretty interesting place because the influence of Indian music can be traced as far as Scotland and Indonesia. I think because it was such a huge part of different trade routes and different diasporas coming through. So it was amazing to go there and witness different things that obviously influence stuff like Spanish flamenco or various Indonesian practices. You could see that they actually came from India. My background, I didn't go to art school. I studied design and I'm a musician. So a lot of all my work has a utilitarian purpose, and it all has some relation to sound or music. Music is just such a great medium because it crosses linguistic boundaries, but it also brings people together. It's a very understandable language. And some of the bands that I used to play in were very ritualistic and incorporated performance and costume. But I don't wear costumes anymore. My costumes became so outlandish that all I could do is play a loop pedal with my left foot. And it's like, this isn't working anymore. I can't see anything. I just end up hurting the audience. So the costumes, I guess they looked like my instruments. It would just be whatever I could find. I'd make costumes out of, just natural materials or rubbish. And some of the costumes were performative sound-based costumes, so they had elements that could trigger, or they were other costumes were supposed to play other costumes. So I'll probably get back into that. But at the moment, I'm not really interested in the ritualistic side of things. I'm more interested in improvisation and collaboration with the audience rather than, something strict and choreographed.
And how do you negotiate that?
How do I negotiate
That kind of collaboration?
the collaboration with the audience? You just have to make something that's incredibly user-friendly. I'm not really interested in making stuff for musicians or an art audience. I think if my kids aren't impressed with what I make and they can't use it, then it's a failure. The stuff that I did in India was probably designed for 4 to 5 people to be used at once, but the space that I was exhibiting at had 10,000 people a day coming through, and so it was complete madness. You just have 20 people in the room all playing at once. So what I made was something that was, hopefully if you sat there you could really compose a piece of music, but it was just like the streets of India when the crowds came through. It was just absolute bonkers madness the whole time. It was just, I sat in there trying to document it. It's just like, this is hell. a nice kind of hell.
Does anyone else have any questions for Dylan? I think there's probably you guys must be
Do you find you're attracted to the junk aesthetic? Is it kind of bucking the kind of the iPad, the beautiful shiny lines? It's about getting more gritty and real. Is that your attraction to it?
No, not really. I don't know. I'm an artist. I haven't got much money. I just see what's around. And I also come from an improvisational background, so I like putting myself in situations where I have to improvise with what I've got. And so if I go to a new place and I have to make a piece of artwork, then I usually just use what I can find. And that's usually what people are throwing away. I'm too old to steal stuff. I've got kids. It's too risky, so I'm down to rubbish. But I like Apple products and new technology. I like combining the two. I mean, new technology is so exciting at the moment. Just the whole DIY culture. Like the stuff that I'm doing, I really enjoy doing it, but I couldn't do it without the help of my uber nerd friends who, you know, I can go to when I have technical problems. Yeah.
Is much of your stuff automated, or is it always activated externally by a person, or is it
Combination. Like the percussion robotics that I've got upstairs. This is the second stage. The first stage was one that I had earlier this year, and basically all you could do was upload a sample and it would play it on a loop. But now I've developed it so that you can compose live, or if you do upload a loop, I've got a box with different parameters such as volume, speed, and you can assign different instruments to the loop. So you can play the one loop, but it'll sound like 12 different loops. So it's turned into a real instrument. My goal is to make everything as interactive as possible, because I think audiences for art, I don't think they're really satisfied just being passive viewers. I think they want to be involved.
Galleries and stuff, it can be really hard to get
Yeah.
to actually.
It depends where. I mean, if you in India, it was hard to get them to take their hands off the work, and Indonesia the same. But I mean, Melbourne's got such an established gallery culture that people aren't used to touching stuff. I know that when you had work late last year with Nathan, I think you know that work was supposed to be interacted with, or that's what I got from it. But most people are too scared to touch it.
It's hard. That's
Yeah.
what I had trouble with it in the past. And usually you have to kind of demonstrate for people.
Yeah.
Or get in there and do it, and people start to hesitantly.
And I
pick
think,
stuff up.
and people are maybe shy as well, because then you're putting yourself up there as, you know, as a performer, as something to be looked at.
Dylan, thank you very much for joining us at the Signal Tea House. We look forward to seeing and hearing your work on Saturday. Ciao. Great.